Have you ever heard that saying, fill your cup up first and serve others from your overflow? Well, when I think of that saying, to me, the first thing that comes to mind is another saying that says, pay yourself first. And what we want to do is learn how to pay ourselves first in all areas of our life, mind, body, and spirit. You know, you can only pay yourself first if you believe you're worthy of it and love yourself enough to do so. And the small adjustments and small improvements in our lives can really help us sustain a lifestyle that really supports us in making that happen. In this video, you're going to learn 5 ways that you should pay yourself first. My name is Yvonne, and the goal in this channel is personal growth. So if you want to improve the quality of your life, click the subscribe button to level up. So here's a quick activity that you can do right now to just get a feel for and an assessment of if you love yourself enough to pay yourself first. And really, that's fundamental. So before I jump into how to pay yourself first let's step back and say, okay, you know, do you have the ground? Is your soil nourished and ready to be able to plant that seed so that it can actually grow? Okay, so this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna look yourself in the mirror and say these 3 simple words. I love you. That's right. Something as simple as looking in the mirror and telling yourself, I love you, is really what this activity is really all about. But you know what? Most people, even though it sounds so simple, most people are going to feel uncomfortable when they try to do that. They're either going to laugh, feel a little weird, and maybe talk themselves out of it by saying that, you know what, this is a dumb activity, it's stupid, and find maybe other excuses not to do it, as if they're too good for this challenge. Or maybe you're one of the people that says, well, I'll do it later. And then somehow you don't find time to do this 2-second activity. Or you're gonna find yourself in the middle of this activity, and you're not going to be able to get through it because you can't get through simply saying I love you to yourself without maybe breaking down and crying. I know that because that's what happened to me at first when I first heard of this activity. I was like, well, that sounds simple enough, and I just couldn't get through it without, I don't know, just this sense of sorrow deep inside of me that just bubbled up. When I would say, I love you to myself in the mirror. So that was an aha moment for me, that there was still some work I needed to get done. Now, of course, I can do that activity and I feel comfortable, I feel confident, and yeah, it's like, of course, of course I love myself. But, you know, it took some daily practice before I could simply look in the mirror and say, I love you without crying or being uncomfortable. So if you're like me, where, you know, you have to get through that, then definitely take the time, because that's called self-awareness. Here's the thing. If you can't love yourself, how could you love others? If you can't love yourself, then how can you possibly know what it means to love someone else? You see, it has to start with us. It's got to start individually, and that's how we can make an impact in the world. Collectively, we need to learn to know what it means to love ourselves enough, because that's the foundation. That's why there's not enough love in the world. Collectively, because individually, there's a part of us that doesn't feel worthy, doesn't feel enough, okay? And feels guilt or shame just around that, okay? So there are limiting beliefs that we need to get beyond. okay? So that's the foundation of paying ourselves first. You know, as women, we tend to put others before ourselves, our kids, our spouse, our family, our friends. But you know, you can't give from an empty cup. You need to see yourself as a fountain that always is flowing, and you give from your overflow. Otherwise, we're always going to feel tired, drained, not enough energy, moody, okay? So having said that, here are 5 ways that you can begin to pay yourself first now. So the first thing I want to share with you is how to take care of our body. We got to take care of our body. We got to put ourselves first by taking care of our body. You see, health and well-being is a priority. And so diet and exercise is important. So a little bit on diet. If you're feeling anxious, stressed, moody, not enough energy, and you can't focus very much, then those are signs that you may want to look at ways to improve your diet and exercise. Are you putting yourself first by prioritizing your health and well-being? See, lots of times in the past, after a long day at work, I was just too tired to make dinner. So it was easier to just order food, and we just did takeout because it was convenient. But if you do that enough times, not only are you going to gain weight, but that poor quality processed and salty food makes you feel lethargic, mentally and emotionally drained. So why is that? Well, let's talk a little bit about that. You see, there's a gut and brain connection, okay? Gut and brain connection. Interestingly, both your gut and your brain weigh about 3 pounds. In fact, they kind of look alike if you really look at pictures of the gut and pictures of the brain. Pretty interesting. Well, the gut and the brain actually communicate, and they send messages to each other through what's called the vagus nerve. And that's the longest nerve that runs from the brainstem through to the intestines. Well, when we eat a lot of processed food, sugary food, fast food, red meats, and take lots of medications, then guess what? It's going to affect our gut health. It's going to affect our gut microbiome by increasing the bad bacteria in the gut, and that creates inflammatory chemicals that gets distributed to a brain and all over our body. And see, research is now becoming aware and suggesting that inflammation is the #1 cause of disease. So we want to put ourselves first by increasing the fruits, vegetables, and water in our diet. For me, what works is intermittent fasting, making smoothies and fresh juices to start my day right. Personally, I'm 5'5". I weighed about 130 pounds, but after pregnancy with twins, I shot up to 200 pounds. I'm still working on my postpartum weight. And I still have about 40 pounds to lose to get to that happy weight. And so the way I'm losing these 40 pounds, actually it was 50 pounds because, I just lost 10 pounds, which was nice. But anyways, that's what I've been doing to lose this weight. And not just that, but just to feel better, to feel more like myself. So I'm going to encourage you to try this, not just for weight loss, but also just to feel good overall. So another way that we can take care of our body is physical activity. It increases your endorphin levels and what the body calls feel-good chemicals. So these are produced by the brain, and that helps us feel happy, and it also improves our sleep. So for me, it was so difficult to get to the gym. You can imagine with 2 twin babies, because also too, I didn't feel like it. I was tired, right, and caring for the kids as well as working full-time in my corporate job. So trust me, I had more than enough excuses that I didn't have time, right, because either work or the kids. But once I realized it needs to be a part of my identity, and to put myself first by taking care of my body, then it was easier for me to get into a routine. So getting to the gym is all about setting up your environment and creating systems to make sure that it supports you to get there. So for instance, as I'm working in my corporate job, my nanny knows that she's packing the bags, she's putting all of the diapers, the bottles, and the change of clothes, everything is in the bag and ready for me, so that at 5 o'clock after I finish my work, guess what I do? I go downstairs, we load the kids in the car, and off we go to the gym. So, and she's used to it, and even the kids are used to it now too. So that's the system throughout the week. So I encourage you to see what system you need to put in place to prepare ahead of time so that it's easier for you. So what's the bottom line? Well, the bottom line is we've got to pay ourselves first by having a routine that includes good quality foods and exercise. Now, let's go to the second. The second way you can pay yourself first is by taking care of your mental and emotional health. Have you ever been on a road trip or a long journey in a car, and then you realize when you get back how dirty your car is after the trip? There are bugs and dirt everywhere, right? And you pick that up along the way. And they're stuck in your windshield, they're stuck along the sides of your car. And you know, it's hard to see through a dirty windshield. So what do? Well, you wash your car. So too, as we go through life, guess what? We pick up negative thinking that affects our mind. So if your mind is clear, then your perception of life is going to be happy. But if your mind is dirty with a film of negative thinking and limiting beliefs, then guess what? You're going to feel more drained, stressed, and anxious. Your perception of life is filtered through your mind. So we need to take the time to step back and clean up the mind. You know, your perception is off when you're moody, stressed, anxious. Maybe your relationships are not working. Maybe you have negative thoughts. Those are symptoms. Those are indicators that it's time to get a mind wash, right? So you can't see your mind the same way you can't. So you see a dirty car, it's pretty clear it's dirty, but you can't see your mind, okay? So even when it's dirty and filthy, with all the gunk we picked up, it's so easy to keep on moving and not realize how dirty our mind's windshield has become. It's hard to see through a dirty windshield. So what you want to do is clean and wash yourself from the inside. Now, when you do this, it's going to help you feel lighter and experience life with more love, joy, and peace deep inside. But see, you've got to pay yourself first. And we do that by investing in your mental health. So for example, every day I take some quiet time to write in my journal, pray, and meditate. Those are 3 things that I definitely can't live without. And so to be clear, prayer is to us as water is to the seed of a plant. I love that. It's a quote by Greg Braden. Prayer is to us as water is to the seed of a plant. You see, when our thought, emotions, and feelings are aligned, then our world mirrors our prayer. So we want to make sure that we take the time to invest in ourselves and do these things. Journaling, prayer, and meditation. All of this is like spring cleaning for your mind. So this was very hard in the beginning for me because, like I said, I have 2 babies, and so I had to create a schedule that made sure that my husband was on board and also supporting me to do this. So what I'm encouraging you to do is invest in yourself by letting your family know that this is a priority for you, and set up a schedule when you can have some alone time to do this. So I do this in the morning before the kids are up. And also in the evening, I love to spend time doing this in the evening. When the kids go to bed, I make sure I have a nice cup of sage tea, journal, pray, and meditate, and it really, really helps me. So point 3 is pay yourself first by setting boundaries and learning to say no. No is a full sentence. You see, let's say you had a beautiful garden. Okay, let's step back and imagine you had a beautiful garden. What do you normally see around a garden? Well, yeah, you see a fence. And what's the purpose of that fence? Well, it's to make sure you keep the garden safe and protected, to keep it looking beautiful. So it keeps it from being damaged and vandalized. So guess what? In this illustration, you are that garden. You're that beautiful garden full of roses and lilies and sunflowers, orchids. That's you. And so it's your job to have boundaries. Just like the garden has a fence, you have that boundary. So if you notice, a fence has 2 sides, one facing the inside of the garden and another facing the outside of the garden. So we need to see that there's an inside and outside boundaries. The inside boundaries are the internal boundaries, and I mean boundaries with yourself. For example, keeping a budget so you know how much money you want to allocate for shopping and other things so that you can save more for emergencies or retirement, okay? So that you're not exposed. And also to protect yourself from unnecessary debt. See, that's the purpose of a budget, but you need boundaries with yourself to be able to follow through and get that done, right? So, or you have a calendar and you schedule in your self-care activities like massages, coaching calls, and therapy sessions, time for journal writing, okay? Things like that. You've got to understand that when you say no to other things, that's saying yes to yourself, okay? That's important for you to remember. When you say no to other things, that's saying yes to yourself, okay? Now let's talk about external boundaries. External boundaries are boundaries with other people. So for example, let's say you have a family member that needs money, and you know what? It's that family member that always asks you for money, and you have a hard time saying no and sticking by your no. So when you say no, then you change your mind, and oh, well, I want to help them, and they know they can count on you, right? Well, that is a sign, my dear, of a weak boundary, and that means your fence is broken, okay? So let's say you know that if you give money to your family member, it's going to affect your own finances and affects what you have available now for you and your kids. So if you give money to them, that's less money for you and your kids, and you're already having a hard time with finances. But you still give them money because you want to help them at your own personal cost. Okay? This is an example where you're not putting yourself first. And you're not giving from your overflow. That's not giving from your overflow. You're depleted. You're running on empty here. Okay? And that's not setting yourself up for success. So if you tend to have troubles with boundaries and you overgive in your relationships and you're always helping other people, family and friends and caretaking that way, then you may be what's called codependent. And this, a codependent person gives, but guess what? Because they're not giving from their overflow, it builds resentment and negative energy around you giving. You don't want to be that person. So that's a symptom. If you notice some level of resentment, negative energy, and some argument behind that giving, you're codependent, my dear. Okay? So we've got to go ahead and take care of that. A codependent person is a person that has problems with boundaries. If you're experiencing codependency, You can recover through getting a therapist that specializes in what's called cognitive behavioral therapy for codependency. Listen, if you don't mend your fence, then your garden will get trampled on and get destroyed. And you're the only person that's responsible for protecting your garden, because that garden is you. Okay? You're responsible, not your husband, not your kids, not your family, not your friends, you. You're responsible for you. So you have no one to blame for lack of boundaries. So you've got to do whatever it takes to fix that fence, fix your fence, and make sure you stay beautiful, vibrant, and flourishing like that beautiful garden, and give from your overflow. Okay, so you want to set yourself up so that you're able to do that. So get the help you need. And I'm speaking from experiences. I'm not telling you something that I haven't done myself. I promise you, I spent years in therapy for my own codependency. And I promise you that it feels good to be able to take the time to mend your fence. And it just beautifies you in a large, large way. So I'm encouraging you to do that. Now, the fourth point in how you pay yourself first is financial. Oh, let me, just a quick point there. When you mend your fence, is it going to be for free? No. It costs paint. It costs maybe some fresh wood. It might cost some nails. It costs time to go ahead and take the time to take care of that. So it's not going to be free to take care of these toxic patterns that you have developed through some trauma. Okay? Another way you can tell that there might be some codependency is when you go back to a memory of your childhood and you get emotional, you start crying, you relive it from a very emotional place. That's a symptom too. So it's time to pay yourself first and invest in yourself to heal, okay? Because your fence is broken. So now let's go to point 4. Pay yourself first financially. So the average person, pays all their expenses first, and then they save what's left. So guess what? They are saving the leftovers. And what do you give your leftovers to? Right? So I know a lot of times we'll go to restaurants, and I've gotten to a point where I'll order smaller portions so that I won't have to take leftovers home. Because nobody likes leftovers. Sometimes we'll bring leftovers home and then we leave it in the car, okay? And then whoops, we have to throw that away, or you give it to your dog. You don't really treasure leftovers the way you treasure the first fresh meal right out of that oven or right out of the stove. It's fresh, it tastes good. Leftovers, you reheat them. Okay, and I'm not bashing leftovers, okay, but I'm trying to bring up an illustration to bring it to life so that you see what's happening here when you don't pay yourself out of the fresh meal, the first meal that comes out in your plate. That's what you need to pay yourself with, the first, not the leftovers, the stuff that people, the scraps, okay? Don't give yourself scraps because you're not scrappy. Okay? Pay yourself first. What's left over is never enough. It's never enough for a full meal. I know, because I've served myself leftovers before in the past, and there's this empty feeling still left in my stomach where now I have to go scamper and go find some more food to kind of feel full. So we don't want to pay ourselves from the leftovers. Also, too, when we think about paying ourselves first, we've got to realize that there's something called lifestyle inflation, also known as Parkinson's law. And that means that as your income increases, because it naturally will do as you continue to progress and succeed in your career, your expenses somehow also creep up. But if you learn to pay yourself first, regardless of what happens, that's going to help stop that lifestyle inflation, where you buy more expensive things, more expensive dinners, more expensive cars, more expensive houses, and more expensive clothes. That leaves you with less to save, right? So here's the thing. You want to pay yourself 10 to 20% of your gross income. Gross. That's the amount you actually make, which is before anyone takes anything. That's before taxes, okay? People normally take a percentage of their net income, okay, and what they make after taxes, but that's not paying yourself first. Okay, that's paying the government first. So what you want to do is make sure that the percentage you want is calculated from your gross. So if you want to save 20%, it's not 20% of your take-home pay. You got to go back. How much is your gross? Okay, 20% of that. So what you want to do is, once you identify what that number is, set up your direct deposit to automatically send it over to your savings account. Okay, so that way you don't even touch it. It's not even touching your checking account. I will say that you're going to want to choose either a high yield savings account or a money market account, because they are going to offer higher interest rates, and that's going to make your money work for you. Remember, you want money to work for you instead of you working so hard for your money. So the fifth point is pay yourself first by investing in yourself. Invest in yourself by investing in your continuous education. You need to be a lifelong learner if you're going to succeed in life. You know, personally, I've invested tens of thousands of dollars on myself in degrees, certifications, mentorship, business programs, personal development. So this is so that I can continue to learn and grow and give value to myself and give to others from my overflow. So how are you expected to change your life and do better and be better if you can't continue to learn and grow? Okay? You get a return from an investment. And if you're not willing to invest in yourself, how do you expect to get any kind of return in your life? Okay? So if there's a program that will help you improve yourself, are you the kind of person that says, oh no, that's too expensive? Or, okay, or are you saying, how can I pay for it? How can I make that possible? Because when you say, oh, that's too expensive, what you're really saying is, I'm not worth it. I'm not enough. Okay? So when you catch yourself saying that's too expensive, that's I'm not worth it, I'm not enough. When it comes to investing in yourself in something that's going to make you better. Okay? So what you want to do is change that question to, how can I afford this? How can I make that happen? That's a more empowering question, and it opens up different kinds of avenues for you. So this kind of question shows that you're putting yourself first, and you recognize that you are valuable enough to invest in yourself. So you need to learn to pay yourself first and love yourself enough to do that. You see, this is a spiritual principle, and it's found in the book of wisdom. In fact, Jesus himself said it in Matthew 22:39. It says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. But let's say that again. What are the last two words there? Love your neighbor as what? As you love yourself. The last two words are love yourself. So there's a expectation and a presupposition that you love yourself, because you can't love others and you have no idea what it means to love others if you don't even love yourself first. Okay? So you've got to learn to pay yourself first. So if you're ready to pay yourself first and invest in your education, and you're ready to have an action plan to set yourself and your loved ones for a better future, I have an announcement to make. Okay, I designed the Money Mastery program for women who are just tired of the excuses and they're ready to level up and upgrade their life to the next level, to get out of debt, to save more, to increase their income so that they're paid what they're worth and they can invest to build real generational wealth. My clients have broken out of the cycle by putting themselves first and first investing in themselves to gain financial literacy. And they have, because of it, the peace of mind that comes when you have an action plan for financial freedom. So if you're ready to live life on your terms, then click on the link below in the description box to go ahead and enroll and get started. Also, it's always great to have inspirational and motivational reminders to keep you moving forward towards your dreams and goals. So click on the link below to choose your favorite designs of the custom design gift for yourself, family, and friends in my online merch store. Click on the link in the description box to go ahead and purchase below. If you enjoyed this video and want to improve the quality of your life, click the subscribe button to level up. And I'll see you on the next one. Oceans of love. Till next time.